These terms that I'm going to discuss in this video are the terms that you are going to encounter, especially if you are still starting out in this industry. Without further delay, let's begin. BPO is basically a process where one company from a certain country hires another company from another country to do certain tasks for them. For example, Amazon or eBay. They're both online stores. They need another company to take care of their customer service needs. In this case, they hire company B from another country to do the task for them. Now, you might ask, why would company A hire another company specifically from another country? Well, in most cases, that's because of the lower cost of labor. I'm not entirely sure about this, but I heard that the salary of one call center agent in the US or Canada could already pay 3 or 4 call center agents here in the Philippines. Therefore, they can save more. The difference between contact center and call center is that contact center deals with emails, chat, and calls, while call center usually only deals with calls. But they are both headquarters where agents make and receive calls and talk to customers or sell to their potential clients. Now, in the Philippines, I'm not sure if this applies to other countries as well, but when someone says BPO, people usually think of BPO as synonymous to call center. That's not entirely correct. And that's because BPO is a vast umbrella. It includes a lot of skills. And it happens that call center industry is just one of those skills. A company could be a company of virtual assistants, graphic designers, and it would still be under the BPO umbrella. In short, the call center industry is just a subcategory of the vast umbrella that is the business process outsourcing. I think the reason why most people usually think of BPO as entirely similar to call center is that in the Philippines, majority of the BPO here are call center companies. But the thing is, there are also companies who manage virtual assistants, graphic designer, computer programmers, you name it. There's a lot of them. An account simply is the client company that your call center company is working for. Remember our setup before with company A and company B? Well, company A is the account and company B is the call center and you are the agent. So think of the account as the client of the call center company that you are working for, because there are basically 3 parties involved in most call center setups in the Philippines. There's the account, which is the one paying your call center company. And then there's the call center company who manages the payroll, makes sure that you go to work and provides the computers. And then there's you, the call center agent. So if somebody asks you, what company are you in? So just say the name of the company that your call center company is partnering with or working for. By the way, just a side note that a call center company could partner with multiple accounts. And it's also the same the other way around. Inbound and outbound. These words simply refer to the direction of where the calls are coming and going. So when the call is coming from the customer going into the call center, then that is called inbound. This applies to customer service where customers call in order to ask a question or get an agent to help them with their problem. This also applies when a patient needs to book an appointment with the clinic. The call is going to the call center from the customer. And outbound is the exact opposite. Instead of the customer doing the calling, it's the agents that's doing the calling. This happens with sales account, where the agents have to call their potential clients to sell products and services. Another example is a company called SSI, formerly called Opinionology, where the agent's task is to call people and ask them for their opinion, to basically conduct a survey. So that's outbound because the call is coming from the call center. CSR simply means customer service representative. If you are a CSR, then you are responsible answering the customer's questions and solving their problems, and just overall helping them with their concerns. Think of TSR like a CSR, but their field of expertise is more specific. Think of TSR as the ones helping customers to fix their computer or fix their connection. They focus more on the technical side of things. To be a TSR, you usually need to have technical knowledge about computers, how to fix an internet connection, routers. You need to have those basic knowledge. This is self-explanatory. This is the sales representative, the one who calls potential clients to promote the company's product and services or to even offer appointment. Product training simply means the training specifically about the account that you're going to be working for. So once you're accepted in the job interview, the next stage is usually the product training, where you will have to know everything that you need to know about the account. In this training, you're going to learn the company policy, the processes, the applications, and software that you need to handle to help your customers. This is usually the part of the training that's very tedious, but also the most important, because if you miss one day of training, then you are going to get left behind. Tools are simply the applications and the software that you're going to be using to assist your customers. Typically, most accounts usually have 5 up to 20 tools, depending on the complexity of the account. For example, there are going to be tools to request for a refund, pull up the customer's account, check her billing statements, tools that you're going to be using to call the customers or to receive calls. So it really depends on the account that you're going to be working for. Mock call. You probably already know this. Mock call is simply a call simulation. You'll usually have to take mock calls in 2 occasions. First is when you're still applying for a call center job. And second is when you're already on the training floor and your trainer wants you to practice handling your customers. So in that case, you're going to have a mock call or call simulation where you have to act as a call center agent and somebody else, preferably your trainer or other trainee, will act as your customer, just to help you get used to taking calls and handling customers over the phone. By the way, I have 5 mock calls so far in this channel, so if you want to check that out, I'm going to link it up here. And then nesting. Nesting is the part of your training, usually after the product training, where you have to take actual calls from actual customers. Based on my experience, when you're nesting, you don't usually have to take calls within the whole 8 hours. Usually when you're in the nesting stage, you're only going to be taking calls for 4 hours, and the rest of that is going to be spent with your trainer, discussing questions about your calls. This part of the training will help you transition. So just think of nesting as an actual work, but shorter compared to an actual employment. Soup call simply means supervisor call. This is a type of call where a customer is asking specifically to talk to a supervisor. That call is called a soup call. And another situation that a regular call will turn into a soup call is when you cannot solve a certain problem or answer a certain question from a customer, and you need the expertise of your team lead to answer that, or you need the escalation team to solve that problem. But when a call is clearly a soup call and the customer really wants to talk to a supervisor, then all you have to do is to inform your TL about it and tell her that, hey, somebody here wants to talk to a manager or a supervisor, and that's it. The 2 kinds of transfer, the warm transfer and the cold transfer. So when you are required to warm transfer a call, it means that you're going to have to inform the next agent or the next person where you're going to be transferring the call to. For example, there's a customer named Karen on the other end of the line. She doesn't want to talk to me. She doesn't want to talk to anyone else. She wants to specifically talk to a different agent. Let's say the rep is called Nicole. And let's say that I cannot solve Karen's problem, that only Nicole, the other agent, could solve it. So my only option would be to transfer her. Now, if I'm going to transfer her using the warm transfer, the first thing that I'm going to have to do is to call Nicole, and then tell Nicole like this: hey, Nicole, there's a customer here on the other end of the line named Karen, and she's specifically asking for you. I tried checking her case number, and it seems like only you has the access to the vendor for this customer. So would you mind talking to her? I have the order number. Do you want it? And then you just give Nicole the order number, and then you will have to give Nicole time, a few minutes, to check the case of the customer. And once Nicole is ready, she's gonna give you the signal to go right ahead, transfer the call, give me Karen. And then I will have to get back to Karen and tell Karen, hey, Karen, I'm gonna have to transfer you now to Nicole. Thank you for calling. Bye. And then I will now click a button to transfer the call to Nicole. So that is a warm transfer. You're basically giving the next rep time to compose herself and prepare herself for the case, so she will have the data to assist the customer. That's warm transfer. But there are also situations where cold transfer is more preferable than a warm transfer in order to save time. Cold transfer, in a nutshell, is the opposite of warm transfer, which means instead of informing the agent about the call, about the customer, you will have to directly transfer the call to the next agent. It's not going to be so nice for the next agent because she's not prepared for the customer. But there are situations where this is more appropriate. Cold transfer is usually more appropriate when you are transferring this customer from this department to another department. In this case, there's no need for an introduction from one party to the other. So that's cold transfer. Depending on the situation, warm transfer might be appropriate and vice versa. In my next mock calls, I'm probably going to be demonstrating the difference between cold and warm transfer. So you will be able to familiarize yourself once you get to work in the call center. ACW simply means after call work. It simply means the work that you have to do right after the call. In some accounts, they usually only allow you to spend 2 minutes on an after call work and then proceed to another call. In the account where I was working 3 years ago, the after call work was a little bit more complicated and harder because after each shift, we have to contact certain people in behalf of the customer. We had to contact USPS, courier services, vendors, suppliers. So the after call work was heavier. Avail. I am not sure if this is a word that other call centers outside the Philippines are also using, but this is definitely a term that we use in the Philippine call centers. When your TL or your team lead says avail, it means that you need to change your status in the dialer from unavailable to avail. Once your status is unavailable, it means that you will start receiving calls from customers. Avail, by the way, is also used to describe the status of a queue. When nobody is calling and the line is available, then that's called avail. So again, I don't know if this is a term that all call center companies around the world are using, but this is definitely a term we use here in the Philippines. Queuing is the opposite of avail. This is the situation where the lines are busy and customers are calling like crazy. In the call center industry, we call that queuing. It means that a lot of customers are calling and there are other customers who are waiting to be answered. Escalate and de-escalate. When someone says escalate, it means to escalate the call. It means transferring the call from an agent to someone higher up, usually to the escalation department or to a supervisor or your team lead. It usually happens when the customer is specifically requesting to talk to a supervisor or to someone higher up, or in technical support, it usually happens when an agent could not solve the customer's problem, and then the call will be escalated to someone who will have better access or better resources to solve that problem. So that's escalation. And de-escalate, on the other hand, is the opposite of escalate. Just because a customer is asking to be transferred to a supervisor doesn't mean that you have to transfer it every single time. For example, if you are dealing with a problem that you know you can solve and the customer is okay with it, you can try to de-escalate it. You can try convincing the customer that, hey, I can solve this problem. There's no need for a supervisor. So that process is called de-escalating or de-escalation. This is especially important because there are more call center agents than team leads. So as much as possible, you want less calls going to your team lead. And you want to be able to solve as much problem as possible without it going to your team lead. You only need to transfer a call to your team lead when you cannot solve the problem or the customer really wants to talk to a supervisor. AutoIn. It just means that the calls are going in and out automatically. So if it is an inbound auto in, it means that the calls are going in and being answered by the system automatically without you having to press a button. I think this is a setup if your account doesn't really have an ACW where you only have to talk to the customer and all the work is done right after the call. So that is usually where call center companies use auto in. On the other hand, if it is an outbound auto in, it means that the system itself is the one doing the dialing. You don't have to dial anything. The system will do that automatically. So right after you finish a call, the system will automatically dial another number for you to call. Whether it's an inbound or an outbound auto in, you will not have much time to rest between calls, which means it's probably going to be a little bit stressful for you because you don't have a breather other than your lunch and your break time, 30-minute break. So that's something that you should think about if you are ever assigned to an account where the system is auto in. I know that I have missed a lot of words here. I am just focusing on the words that you should know if you're still starting out in this industry. If you want me to do a part 2 of this, comment down below and let me know. If you have any requests for my next video, I will make a video for you in the future. All right. Thank you for watching. Bye.